taking a trip to Mexico City.
Who's that?
We are.
Vocally.
For this, vocally. Yeah, virtually. Virtually.
Oh, yes.
Right now.
Okay, I'm going to get this. I got it. Hello, folks, and welcome to Street PX. I am Casper, and joined at the mic by my friend and co-host,
Jim Watkins, man. How you doing?
I am great, and we have one hell of an inspirational show for you today. We're sitting down with award-winning photographer Alejandra López-Zaballa, who has, after much travel and exploration, pretty much made the entire world her home. So don't touch that dial. You're not going to want to miss out on a single minute of this one. Now, in usual Street PX fashion, we want to share some exhibits worth checking out that may just be in your area. And let's go ahead and have you start this one off.
Well, let's talk about our old friend Rosa Wolf. Just want to remind our viewers about her show at the Leica store in Rome. It's called Floating World, and that's running through May 10th. So if you're in Rome, check it out.
Good deal. Next up is for you folks down in the City of Angels. This is La Raza at the Autry and Griffith Park, Los Angeles, California. The La Raza was published in Los Angeles from 67 to 77, and it provided a voice to the Chicano rights movement throughout that duration of time. So in accordance with the Chicano Studies Research Center at UCLA, where they house about 25,000 images created by photographers of La Raza, this exhibition is going to be diving into that and showing work that explores photography's role in articulating the social and political concerns of the Chicano movement during a pivotal time in the art and history of the United States. It's going to be up for a long while, February 10th of next year, actually, to be specific, but there is no better time than the present to check it out. So, yeah, go do that.
Man, that sounds great. You know, my son lives down there, so I might check that out, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, excuse to go and visit.
There you go.
The last exhibit I want to note is for you fans of colorful street photography. And this is a name that needs no description, William Eggleston. And so go ahead and head over to the Met Museum on Fifth Avenue in New York City before May 28th and take a look at one of his most notable portfolios, Los Alamos. Now, this is comprised of 75 dye transfer prints from color negatives made between 1965 and 1974. This is a series that, as far as I am aware, has never been shown in its entirety in New York City, and includes this artist's first color photograph. So if you want to see William's first color photograph, this is where you want to go and check it out. So again, Met Museum, the Metropolitan Museum on Fifth Avenue in New York City. Beyond that, I do want to throw some love to our wonderful sponsor, Glass Key Photo. This is San Francisco's premier place for all things analog. So if you're looking for repairs, new camera, new lens, more film, awesome zines made by artists right here in the Bay Area, this is the place to go. Located downtown and open 7 days a week from 12 to 6, and ran by two of the most awesome cats here in the Bay Area, Gordon and Matt.
I need to stop by. It's been a while. I'm gonna have to go by there, check those guys out.
Yeah, I gotta get down there. It's been too long since I've seen them.
Yeah.
Gonna have to.
We've been so busy.
I know. I've been, busy with workshops, and I know you've been shooting your ass off.
Yeah, doing landscapes.
Landscapes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, doing landscape work, man. Tell you.
Sweet. Where at?
All the parks in the Parks District of San Francisco.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, man. They got me climbing hills and everything, man. I got to tell you that story later. Yeah.
All right. I do want to, put out a big thank you to the hacker that fucked over our site over the last few weeks. I do really mean that. Thank you. Because you kind of kicked us in the ass to be able to rebuild our website bigger and better than ever. So from this point forward, we do hope that you enjoy our new layout, that it's easier to navigate. And over the course of time, we're going to be adding and expanding, showing more events and exhibits, and a growing and expanding news section showing photo essays, projects, and relevant news to the nature of human interest photography. Now, we are accepting cross-posting and contributions from not only our past guests, but as well as you, our kick-ass audience out there. So if you have a story to share, contact us by email through contact@streetpx.com or catch up with us on Facebook by searching for the Street PX Lounge. We want to publish and share your work. Anyway, enough of all of this. I think it's about time we get to this wonderful interview with Alejandra, who, like I said at the opening, is a world traveler from Madrid to Thailand, Kenya, Mexico, Sri Lanka. Her experiences have taken her to well over 70 countries, and her work has been exhibited in many of them, including projects such as her Shelters and Futures series, which we talk extensively about in this episode, which revolves around a project that she started 3 years ago in Oaxaca, Mexico. And it focuses on the girls of an orphan house whose families are unable to look after them. It's very sad, but it is very inspiring. And we do share some links if you want to get involved and help give back to this. This is a 3-year project that has allowed her intense access and helped her build very strong relationships that take this project to a whole different level. So anyway, enough of my descriptions. Let's jump into this interview and let Alejandra tell you her story. Yeah. Now, you were a finalist there at the Street Photo, right?
Yeah, right. That was with this photo, as you said before.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. That thing is massive. It's like a perfect backdrop, but the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that photo too. It's one of my favorites. It is a project I started 3 years ago in Oaxaca, in the south of Mexico, in an orphan house. So these girls, well, they actually have parents biologically, but the parents are not in the position to look after them. Some are in jail, some are having really serious disease, and they cannot even look after themselves. So some of them are in the hospital. Some are moms, single moms, and very young, in their 14, 15. So like the culture there tends to have kids at a very early stage in life.
Right.
So in summary, the girls cannot have a family, cannot have a home on their own. And there is this, as in many other places, there are orphan houses, but there is this house that allows them to be there for the period of time they need it. So they are not adopted because they have biological parents. And sometimes there are happy endings in which they can go back to their families, I don't know, in a few years. Especially the cases of the very young moms, when they manage to find a job and to have the proper living conditions for their girls, the girls can go back. And sometimes it happens in 3 years, in 2 years, in 4 years. Some others, they never go back to their homes. So when they are 18, they leave the orphan house. But yeah, that's the story.
Now, how does that title translate? Is it Shelters and Futures, or what is?
Yeah.
It is Shelters and Futures.
Shelters and Futures.
Okay.
I think the website is in English as well. If you click on the flag icon,
I couldn't get that part to translate, so I wound up doing the old Google translation, and it did translate to Shelters and Futures. But I said, I wonder if there's another translation for Futuros.
I've always been very interested in social projects. I've been a member of UNICEF since I don't remember 25 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. And for a period of my life, when I was 27 years old, long time ago,
come on,
I lived in Kenya, in Nairobi, and I worked for Doctors Without Borders, and I also volunteered in an orphan house. In that case, it was an orphan house, and these kids were the children of HIV moms who passed away after giving delivery. After deliver. Yeah. You correct. If I use a word that is not right, please correct me. But anyway.
That's okay. Do the same to us too.
Right. So I'm always been very interested in social projects. When I was living in Thailand before living in Mexico, I also did volunteer work with my photography in Cambodia. in a school of a very poor rural area. So anyway, when I arrived to Mexico 5 years ago, I wanted to do also social work, but merge with photography, with what I love, with my passion. Because yes, it's great to go to an orphan house and also help them feed the girls and get them dressed. But there are so many people who can do that. And I thought, why don't I try to do a photography project, kind of fine art, and with the work that I sell, get part of the benefits to cover some of the costs of the orphan house, because this orphan house is very humble. They don't have any finance help from the government or from private institutions. So they just survive with the individual donations. People like me like,
the kindness of strangers, as they say.
Yeah. So, and they are not doing bad, because there are many people in the area in Oaxaca who know about this place, and people who have a garden, they bring tomatoes. People who have chickens, they bring eggs, right? People who have daughters who are grown up bring clothes that are in very good condition, but they don't use anymore. But those are material donations that are very good, and they need that, but they also need to go to school. They also need beds to sleep. They also need toilets when they get it's funny I'm mentioning this, because once I went to do the project, I've been going for 3 years, more or less every 3 months, every 6 months, depending on also my availability. And when I fly there, it's like 1 hour south of Mexico City by plane. And when I fly there, I stay for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks as well, depending on my working schedule. I try to stay as long as I can, and I go every single day. In the morning from 7 a.m. till 1 p.m. Then they go to school until 7 in the evening. And I repeat the same routine every single day from Monday to Friday, 7 to 1. And Saturday and Sunday, I stay all day because they don't have to go to school.
Yeah.
And it's when they get dirty, like in this photo, if you see the clothes, it's total documentary project. So I don't manipulate, I don't intervene the photos, because it wants to represent this project, the reality of these girls in this orphan house.
Now, as far as for this project here, I understand you're there for that whole duration. Are you going to the schools as well, or are you just letting them be and focusing more on the home life?
To the school,
or the lack of home life, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. That's the school I just went once, and it was actually last November. And I went there because it was the Day of the Death. You've heard of it, right?
Yep.
Very popular. Well, for the Day of the Death, people in Mexico, they get a lot of makeup in their faces, like skulls, and it's really beautiful.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love it.
Of any culture, I adore that tradition.
Yeah, and the images that you take that I see on Instagram all the time are just amazing.
Thank you.
I feel bad that I haven't been following you this whole time, because Jim pulled your name. Like, Jim came at me with your name. I was like, wait a minute, who is this? And I started pulling up your work, and I was like, where the hell has she been? This is amazing. I'm not looking hard enough here.
Thank you. No, thank you, guys. That's great. Because this project, I get so happy people like this project, not because of me, because I photograph, but because of the girls. Normally, people don't pay attention to this, and not because people are not good, but people have tons of millions of things to do. Life is hectic, everyone is stressed out, and these girls are not viral. These girls are not going to go on the front page of any paper or on the back page of any paper. And if I post on Instagram, people like Jim, like you, same as I do for you, and people like us, we like these photos and we like this type of projects. But the common people out there, sometimes they do but usually they are more grabbed by the famous, the popularity, the things that are viral. And it's normal. It's normal. We are all humans, and we pay attention to things that have 10 million likes, and But so when I hear good comments, or when this photo won, it was finalist in San Francisco, but won also the third prize of exposure awards from Lens Culture. And it was exhibited in Photo London, in London, in Somerset House in 2015. And then it won also the Black and White Spider Awards for the category of the Children of the World. So when it gets recognition, the work, I get very happy, because what happens, not for me, I don't want to be famous, but what happens when the photos get the recognition, and because we all do similar things. First, they get more attention and more people see them. So we achieved one of the first project objectives of the project, which is get people more aware of what's happening in the world, and in the world of girls like these ones. And when people is more aware, people want to do things, and people want to change the world from their little world, and we can all add a grain of salt. We don't need to do a huge thing. If we all do a little thing, the sum of all those little things is going to be an amazing, huge thing. So the first objective with the project was, if I give them exposure by my photos, by doing exhibitions, not only of beautiful landscapes and architecture, but also about them, they are going to get more attention. And actually it has happened. So now I get people in Mexico City that asks me, Ale, I'm going to Oaxaca. Where is the orphan house? Can I visit them? Can I bring them these clothes? Can I give this donation? And I said, yeah, sure. And it's fantastic. I just share the contact details, and this is like a snowball. It gets bigger.
The flap of a butterfly's wing,
Exactly. Right.
That's the most gratifying thing about photography, when you can make a difference with your images. That to me is the end all be all of it.
Well, it deserves repeating what Alejandra said a while ago about us as photographers. We fall into this trap. It's kind of an unexpected trap, but it's the nature of the industry, is we're so involved with the culture and the community of photography and the world of photography that when we see these projects and so forth in our world, in our little circle, they're big. They're getting out there. They're getting the awareness and so forth. But in the reality of things on the worldwide scale, it's not as vast and as widespread, because we live, just like anything today, we live in a bubble, and it's difficult to breach that bubble and get like your imagery, like you're talking about, out there. Because even to a point on the competitions are also usually mostly participated on by photographers that are in that same bubble. They're looked at and exposed to other people that are also of that same bubble. So the question is, like, how do we explode that bubble so everyone else can kind of see within our world here? Right. I know that you're doing the competition and so forth, but is there anything else that you do for your projects to try and gain some more momentum outside of our own circles?
I'm doing the exhibitions, and by the exhibitions, and when people buy works, I do limited editions of all the projects I work.
Oh, like selling prints and such.
Yeah, selling prints.
Nice.
So like this one in the back, that one is 13 limited editions. Sometimes I do less. For the girls, I decided to do 13, which is a good number, but not
I
to
like number 13.
I love it. I got married on a 13.
There you go.
Now, how big is that picture that's behind you here?
That one is tall, is 1.55 meters. Sorry, I'm European by origin. I don't work with inches.
That's all right. It's just big.
Jim, do you want to translate that?
Let me see. I have an application here that translates meters into inches. 1 sec.
It should be probably roughly
55. Oh, is 61 inches. How many feet?
Oh,
is
yeah.
that? Foot here.
About 5 feet.
5 feet tall, and width is 2.25 meters, which is 7.4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So 6 by 7, 6 by 7.5.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, I know maybe at a slightly smaller size, that's going to need to be on my wall. So we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Well,
Fantastic. So we did with this one is the main image of the exhibition. And the exhibition had like 20 images, different sizes. And I also had some of the things the girls use and some contact sheets of other photos. So it was a holistic project. We had the map and we had some of the installations of the house where they live. We had paintings they had done anytime they have a visitor. And I'm a visitor, right? Even if now I'm like the old sister or a mom, I could be their mom too. So anyway, so they paint for me and we put all that too. So people can get closer to them and can understand how they are. And this one, it was amazing because it got really well sold in a smaller size too, not this big. But but for this one, we did an installation and you see they are blowing in balloons. So right. I thought, why don't we put balloons all around and to the top of this image that are black, white, and gray and silver, because it's a black and white photo, right? So it was difficult because this was exhibited. If you come to Mexico City, you will. I'll bring you to downtown to this gallery. It's amazing. So it's got it's got walls that go to the roof, like 3 levels. So we had a lot of space for the balloons, like to fly till reaching the roof. And it was really amazing. So answering your question, what else do I do? By the selling of prints, I can invest and finance my own projects. I don't always need to ask for grants or win prizes. I mean, of course, it's great. And we all, I think, touch those bases too, because it's helpful and gives exposure and allow us to continue doing our work. For me, selling prints also works pretty well now that I'm a bit known in Mexico. When I arrived, no one knew me, but now I've done like 20 exhibitions in Mexico City, a couple in New York, San Francisco when I participated with you guys, in Madrid. So anyway, after doing all that, people start, and also word of mouth. And so
you have it across about 9 different countries, it looks like, that you've exhibited in. And now I don't mean to cut off, but as far as the story you said a while ago about you could be a member of the family that you've worked with them so much, but you said that you'd been there for 3 weeks on this particular project is what it took, or how long?
No, the first time I arrived, it was in February 2015. I was 2 weeks. Then after that, I was for 3 weeks, 6 months later, after that date. And then I've been going back regularly every 6 months, more or less. And it depends. Sometimes I stay 1 week, some I stay 2. The longest I've stayed is 3 weeks in one trip.
And it's all at the same facility?
Yeah. I stay in a hostel next, well, not next door, but nearby, like 10 minutes by cab. And because there is no hostel or anywhere you can stay where in the neighborhood they are is residential, middle class residential. But it has no touristic interest, so there are no hostels or hotels or anything. And they don't have room for visits, of course. They are very humble. That is great.
Now, through your time working with them, are you finding that each time you come back, are there children that have been returned back home, or by and large, are you noticing the same children each time that you come?
Some have gone back home, which is great. I mean, it's a pity not to see them again, but it's fantastic to know they are with their moms or their fathers many times too. And sometimes I see new girls too, because there are new needs. And the ones that are still there are huge. They are women now. They were girls when I first arrived, when this was 3 years ago. And now they are women, because if some of them had, imagine, 9 years, 10 years when I first went, now they are 13, 14. So they are women.
Wow, yeah.
And you've got to watch them in a roundabout way grow up.
Yeah.
And so I definitely see that now that you're part of the family.
Yeah. And coming back to that point and answering also the question that I think we moved to another topic about if I had gone to their school, I just only did when it was the day of the death. And it was because they had never participated in the day of the death customs contest because they didn't have money. The orphan house didn't have money for hiring a makeup artist and get their faces done with the makeup. I mean, of course it's not that expensive, but they prefer to invest that in food or school material. So when they told me, I decided, okay, I can hire a couple of makeup artists for a morning. So we did that. They got all done their makeup and I went with them to the school, to the contest, and they won the third prize of the contest. So for them, it was amazing because it was their first time having the makeup, being able to participate, and then they got a little prize. So it was, life is also that, right? Not just eating, sleeping, and studying.
Yeah, that's right. Because I want to find out some background about this.
Yes, actually, that's a good point. Before we get too far into it, we want to find out exactly who you are for our guests. I know you're living in Mexico now, but as often as it seems that you move, you kind of, the world seems to be your home. Where are you originally from?
I was born in Madrid.
Madrid?
Spain.
Okay. Excellent. And as far as art and the creative side of things, was this something that came later in life, or had you always been?
It came later in life. I think I've always been creative. I hope. For sure, I was always interested in photography. My mom studied architecture and she used to paint. And when I was little, I used to go to paint classes and I loved painting. But then in Spain, in my generation, you had to study a degree. If you didn't study a degree, your family thought like you will never find a job, even the society, you know what I'm talking?
It's like, what's your kid do? Yeah. He's an artist.
Yeah, photographer. Well, when I was, another thing I did a lot as a child was dancing. I used to love dancing, any kind, flamenco, ballet, jazz, funky, you name it. And I was all the time singing and dancing. The problem is I don't sing well. I'm a crap singing. Let's be honest. But dancing, I was not that bad. And I really, really enjoyed it. So I was 8 and I said to my mom, I want to quit school and I want to go just to the dancing school 8 hours a day because I want to become a professional dancer. And my mom said, oh, and you want to starve too, right? And I said, yes. Anyway, it didn't work. So of course, I had to go to school until the age of 18. Mm-hmm. And then another moment we had, my mom and I, it was a discussion because I wanted to study architecture. And she said, no, I know what that is. You shouldn't. It's very hard and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I ended up studying business administration.
That one's pretty wide ranging. You can go into a lot with that.
At least you can set up a photography business with that.
Exactly. I see you're thinking ahead. You're like, I'll do this for 10 years and then you can't argue with me anymore because then I'm picking up a camera.
Right. Exactly.
But it sounds like having the type of job you're working in HR with multinational companies and such, having the ability to travel, I'm sure that played a huge role in opening you up to the world and becoming more familiar with documenting lives. Totally.
So when I was in London, I decided I'm going to study professional photography now. I thought I was too old and it was too late to start a career in photography, so I didn't think it that way, but I thought this is something I've always been passionate about. I've been doing the photography albums of my family since I was 3 years old, so I gotta get this right. I carry my camera everywhere, but honestly, I'm not good with the technical part because I've never learned. So I went to the London School of Photography and I took classes at night because I was working, as you said, in HR for a multinational. and I was giving service to Europe. So I had the chance to travel a lot. So when I was not going to school, I was carrying my camera and shooting here and there anytime I had a break or anytime I had to commute from one place to another. After that, I moved to Thailand. Excuse me. So I moved to Thailand, and while I was looking for a job in HR, I had to do a lot of papers, like the working paper and the residence perk. It's not same as if you guys could go to Asia or anyone who's not Asian. There are certain steps you have to take. So anyway, I took the advantage in those months to do a lot of photography workshops. So I was going 2 months to the Philippines, 2 weeks to the Philippines, 2 weeks to Myanmar, 2 weeks to Japan. And I was taking workshops with Carl Grohl. He's an American from San Diego. He spends, I think, 80% of his time in Asia. I love him. He's really great and very good in travel photography and social photography. He does a lot of work for NGOs too. So that is really when I think I can say I started to become a photographer, because, knowing the theory and doing all those classes I did before, it was great. You need to know your camera. You need to know your
That's
tool.
the technical side of things. Get the foundation.
Right. But when I really, really became a photographer was when I was able to spend 5 hours on a spot for something to happen. When I was able to wake up in the morning at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock to climb a mountain and be in the peak at sunrise. Then when I was able to take photos of people without me getting embarrassed or nervous or...
Oh, you're getting past that wall. Yes.
When I was able to take photos of people in the streets and they felt fine, comfort. Sometimes they didn't know, but when they knew, they were fine with it. And you develop all those skills that are the soft skills. By doing it and doing it thousands of times. So
Alejandra, let me ask you something. Let me step back a little bit from something you said earlier, because this would tell a lot about you. Did you go to Asia without a job?
Yeah, I went with my husband. My husband
I see. Okay. Okay.
We had to make a decision who was quitting his job or her
I see.
job. I wanted him to quit his job. He wanted me to. And what happened, as in many cases, women end up, and I was thinking, I had a big job because I was responsible for Europe in the talent. I was doing talent and recruitment.
Okay.
And it was a big job and good money and all that. Like, I will never make the same money with photography, probably. But
it's the sacrifice that's made, right?
It doesn't really matter. I love what I do. And it was my choice, But what I mean is, at the beginning, we were like kind of negotiating who's going to quit, because for moving together to Thailand, we couldn't both have the job there. So anyway, at the end, it was me, but I will always, always, always be grateful to him and to myself and to the universe that this happened, because probably if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be a professional photographer, at least. An amateur, it would be my hobby, my passion, but probably I wouldn't be making a living out of it.
Sometimes you just simply have to make the jump. It's that leap of
Take
faith.
that leap, right? Yeah, as you have done, Casper.
Yeah. And especially if you're going to go into something like what you work on, you have to have the time, and not just to do the project, but to continue to learn. And things like a social documentary and getting into and comfortable being with people and in their lives, that's not something that can really be learned. You have to, or in a classroom, you have to, like you said a while ago, you have to go out there and experience it and do it, and just build your knowledge of how to ingratiate yourself into these families naturally. Just going to pop in real quick to throw some love to our sponsor, Glass Key Photo. This is San Francisco's premier analog photography store and a staple for many photographers here in the Bay Area. If you're looking for analog gear, repairs, film, old or new, amazing zines by local artists, or simply want some great company and the opportunity for some fun photo walks, this is the place to be. You can find out more information and upcoming happenings by following them on Facebook or Twitter by searching Glass Key Photo or visit their website at glasskeyphoto.com. Now, after 5 years in the colorful and historic Haight District, they have relocated closer to downtown. You can now find them at 1230 Sutter Street. That's between Polk Street and Van Ness. It's a fantastic new venue offering a ton of space, breath of fresh air, I'm sure, for not only Gordon and Matt down there, but all photographers here in the Bay Area. Above all, while in San Francisco, be sure to visit Glass Key Photo and give a big hello from all of us here at Street PX.
Now, this might be a good segue into Bangkok Soul.
Yes.
Tell us about that endeavor.
You guys really did a fantastic research. I'm impressed.
when the subject is interesting, we do our research.
We're researchers / stalkers. So we just use the podcast as a front.
That is what I was thinking now. I was thinking maybe you guys know things that I don't want you to know.
Well, we'll get into that later.
But it is a beautiful. Now, is that still active right now? Before we get into it,
not anymore. I have the website. I had a person helping me, but not anymore. This last year, we haven't
go ahead
done any tours.
Okay, well, go ahead and explain kind of what you're doing there for a while, because it could very well inspire some of our listeners to, make their own leap of faith.
Sure. So it's another idea, the same as merging social and philanthropy with photography. In this case, was merging another two passions I have, photography, of course, which is the constant, and the other passion, traveling and culture. So as I said before, when I arrived to Thailand for a few months, I was doing a lot of photography workshops, and I also did a certificate as a tour guide in the National Museum of Thailand in Bangkok. And I did it at first also for myself, right? Because I love the culture. I love getting to know more about the history, the art. I also learned Buddhism in this certificate, because Thailand is 95% of the population is Buddhist.
Yep.
And I also learned Thai to speak, not to write, I must say. It's a different thing. But to speak basic Thai, I was pretty good communicating in basic Thai. So anyway, I learned all that. I got the certificate. I learned a lot. I really loved it. And then I thought, and I was a volunteer guide once a week in the museum. But I thought, what else can I do with this? Because I love it and I don't want to lose it. And I decided, maybe I can do a photography tour company and I can merge my two passions. I can do private tours for visitors. They don't need to be photographers. They can be amateurs, but they can also be professional photographers who come from abroad and don't really know the places, the times, the light, when the good light is, from which angle, because you know all that. And of course, today there are apps and you can get a lot of help with the apps. But sometimes if you arrive to a 14 million citizens city that has an average of traffic of 2 hours, sometimes it's great to have a guide that picks you up in the hotel with aircon car in a city also of 35 degrees. In Fahrenheit could be 110.
Right.
And with a lot of humidity. It's great. You get a private car with a chauffeur, with a driver, with aircon, and a guide that can explain you the history of the city, some fun anecdotes, things about politics, also actual things. I didn't only talk about the history. I also, because I was living there, so I understood about the monarchy, the government, the fashion, what Thai likes, what they don't like, what they do, good places for eating, for dancing, for drinking, whatever, because photographers also need a drink once in a while.
Yes, we do.
So basically, that was the spirit of Bangkok Soul, showing the soul of the city to people who love photography, not necessarily photographers, and making things so easy for them, meaning the traffic, the light, the timings, when things are opened, all that, that they only had to care about learning, admiring, and shooting.
Well, it still gives them that opportunity of adventure too. I mean, they're getting to take that journey with you and experience the city in ways they never would have had a chance to do.
Right. Yeah.
And it's got to be so much more enriching for them instead of sitting on top of a tour, on a double-decker tour bus, baking in the sun, probably. Yeah.
Now you are driving around.
That's invaluable.
Yes. And now, since they are driving around, they have access to the car. Was the process also to park, find places, and walk various neighborhoods?
Yeah, sure. For example, in Chinatown in Thailand is a big neighborhood. And we did a lot of walks there because, well, in San Francisco is also very demanded. Chinatowns in the big cities in the world are particular and have many interesting things going on and a lot of traditions because Chinese are able to keep their traditions no matter where they live. So Chinatown was one of them. Another one that was very successful was the floating market. Now some of the floating markets are a bit too touristic, but when you live there, you get to know the ones that use only the locals. And when I discovered those ones, I took people only to the non-famous, non-popular ones and the real local ones. And there is another market. It's not on the water, it's not on a klong, but it's the flower market. And there is a section of fruits and vegetables too. That's also amazing because some people live in the market and you can really document their stories, not just shoot flowers and mangoes.
Now, have you considered doing a similar thing in your new location there in Mexico?
Actually, I thought that at the very beginning, and even before moving here, I thought I'm going to do Mexico Soul. And, I registered the name, and I have various cities soul, like Madrid Soul, where I come from. Bangkok.
Are you just locking it down?
Right.
That's good SEO thinking. It's like, I'm going to take all of these and just forward them to the same place.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, whoever wants to do this, and there are already companies doing similar things like photography tours and all that, they can use other names. There are tons of names to use.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I arrived to Mexico, I thought about doing Mexico Soul. What put me off a little bit is the security in the city.
Really?
Thailand is amazing how safe it is. Like, if I had a dinner with my girlfriends and I could go back home around midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I could walk for 20 minutes at night in the darkness. Nothing would happen. Mexico is the other extreme, let's say. I mean, it's not like you cannot get out of the house. I get out of the house all the time.
Right.
But if you go to the most touristic places and you carry big cameras and you go with a group of 10 people, then, of course, the people who the crime is going to go after you. They're going to see those cameras. They're going to want to have them and to sell them in the market and get money for that. So I thought, I'm not really sure I want to do this, no matter how many legal release forms the clients sign for me. It's not a question that I will be legally fine. It's also a question that I don't want anyone coming in a tour with me to have to go through a bad thing or, know.
Right.
And I know very, very, very few people who do it in Mexico City. Actually, I just know only one person. And anytime he does it, he hires security. And I thought, do I really want to hire security and have bodyguards with us?
Yeah, that kind of breaks the whole, minutia of the day.
Well, do you still feel that same sense of insecurity when you're going out alone and shooting in Mexico City?
Well, for example, I'm shooting a project now about the Angel of the Independence. Is a monument, and it's been something totally a challenge for me because I've never had shoot a monument before and less doing a project out of it. But last year I had a couple of very little surgeries, but I couldn't travel that much as I used to. And actually I went to see the girls last year only once for several weeks, but only once. Because the doctor said to me, nothing dangerous, but after the surgery, you cannot fly for 2-3 months. And I was like, really?
Damn, doctor.
Why did I go to this doctor? But anyway, so I thought I have to find something to shoot here and make a project out of it. The Angel of the Independence is like the most iconic symbol in the city. It's like the Statue of Liberty in New York. It's like in San Francisco, I forgot the name now. Well, or your bridge, the Golden Gate.
Golden Gate.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
I was really curious which you were going to choose as the San Francisco icon. I was like, is it going to be Coit Tower? What? I saw you put your hands up. I was like, which one?
Yeah, I was thinking of the tower, but then I thought Golden Gate is more iconic of San Francisco for sure. So it's like the iconic statue and symbol of the city, and also represents the independence of the country. It's a winged victory that represents justice, balance, and many good things and values. And I thought, okay, I'm going to choose this because if I'm doing something about Mexico City and I don't want to shoot in specific neighborhoods because of security, maybe this is easier in that sense, in the sense of security. It's much more difficult because to do 20 images of the same statue that they are different, for me was like, and I'm used to shoot people. I'm not used to shoot a statue. Well, landscape and architecture as well, but
you got to really think outside the box to tell a story about something that's static.
Right. And then it was funny because I could do a whole project. I thought I'm going to do the 360 vision of the angel. And that means I'm going to do a very antique and vintage angel. I'm going to do a double exposure angel or triple exposure. I'm going to do a pop angel. I'm going to do, an angel at night with the full moon next to it. I'm going to do an angel with the sunrise and the sunset. So you have different views of the angel at different moments, but also I'm using Photoshop and Lightroom to manipulate some of the images to get those styles. Like the pop art angel is not because the angel changes its colors. It's because I take the basic image and I manipulate that on Photoshop to get my pop angel. And Andy Warhol style.
Yeah.
So it worked out well at the end, but it was like a year and a half of doing a lot of thinking, research, manipulating images. Many I didn't like how they turned out. Many others I did, and of course those were the selected ones. But that was a huge challenge. And I was telling you this because many times I used to go there in front of the statue at night, and it's not one of the non-safety areas at all. And I had an American photographer next to me one day, because many people go there with their tripods to shoot the angel at night. And the guy was wearing sunglasses at night. And I thought, why is this guy wearing these sunglasses at night? Anyway, I didn't say anything, of course. We were chatting, very nice guy. And at the end of the conversation, he said to me, well, I really miss not having I was using my wide angle, my Canon 1635 f2.8. And he's like, I'm really missing not having that lens today. And I'm like, why don't you have it today? You forgot it at the hotel? Or no, I got stalled yesterday. He pulls his glasses out and I see a blue eye. I mean, not the eye, but the face.
The bruise.
A black eye. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Shoot, what happened to you?
It's like, what do you say? I'm sorry.
and he said, like, well, yesterday I went to another monument, the Monument of the Revolution. Is another area that is not particularly dangerous. but he was there with his tripod, with his cameras. Of course, people know that is valuable. A guy came, punched him on the face, took his cameras, took his backpack, and ran away. And I thought, oof. So, I've never had any problems. I touch good, as we say in Mexico. That means good luck.
That's our knock on wood. But it doesn't, that's not to say that Mexico, it's inherent of only Mexico or only these areas, because right here in San Francisco, which you think as a safe city, quote unquote, from looking in the outside in, we have areas of like Twin Peaks here in town, which is a very famous tourist area. It overlooks the city, beautiful views. But we've had people go up there in the morning that, what was it, Jim, last year? The gentleman that shot and killed him, or was it a stabbing? I think that's both actually happened. Wow. And then we have suture baths, and it's been photographers, exactly that. People that have went, they have gear on them. And then somebody, in the area stalking these people and come up and mug them. And many times of recent, it's actually resulted in death.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel particularly vulnerable as a female photographer going out in there? And are there other female photographers, especially documentary or street photographers in Mexico City that you kind of get together? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are not that many documentary female. There are many, many more men.
Yeah.
Female are more focused on weddings, fashion, commercial photography. There are a lot of women photographers pretty good actually doing family photography and doing baby shoots.
Yeah.
There are pretty many studios here. So for events, there are fantastic female photographers. Documentary, there are a few, but we are on extinction, I think. Animals on extinction.
Yeah.
And there are ways to cover your back. I've decided not to do Mexico Soul in the city, but then because I also had other options and alternatives to continue doing my work. So I go to Oaxaca, I go to Chiapas, I travel to many other places in Mexico or in Latin America where, because they are more rural or smaller cities, you can be safer. There are also other ways. Sometimes I hire drivers, not because I don't want to drive, but because I hire them also as a guide, and as a guide more to have a male next to me in case something happens. It's not me alone,
Right. Well, even as a male, I want one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Give me a second person always, because you got to have a photo buddy.
Especially when you go to a new place and everyone knows you are a foreigner.
Yeah.
It's good to have a local person next to you. So.
Yeah. Now, not to digress back, but earlier in the show, we were talking, you were talking about your travels and everything, and you had made mention about Nairobi and working in that area. That really fascinates me. So while you were there, what exactly was your prime directive on being there, and how did that experience play out for you?
Yeah, I was there when I was 27. This is, let me count, 18 or 17 years ago. At that moment, I was not a professional photographer yet, so it's a pity because the photos there are amazing. So I should go back.
Kind of looking back on it, going, why didn't I start this sooner?
Totally. If I live again, I will be a photographer since the age of 10, like Henry Cartier-Bresson or Frank Zappa or one of those. But anyway, so I went because of my motivation about social work. Right. I was working in Madrid at that time before going to Nairobi for Accenture as a consultant, and I wanted to do social work. And in Accenture, at least at that time, you couldn't do any social work. So I decided to apply for a job in Pharmacists Without Borders and Doctors Without Borders. And I flew there With Pharmacists Without Borders, I was doing the finance. In my background, business administration, I was doing the business cases for donors and the accountant and presenting everything to the auditors. Pricewaterhouse were our auditors. And then that was more office work. But then for Doctors Without Borders, I participated in two very interesting projects. One in the north of Kenya, in the border with Somaliland. That area is really arid and very dry. And the estimation of hunger is over 30% of the population because the land is so dry, they can hardly plant anything. Even, like the cattle cannot survive. So I went there for a few weeks with a team. We were a big team. And we opened a food, they call it a food campament or camp? A food camp, sorry.
Okay.
I was using the Spanish word. A food camp. And for that, you need to do an assessment, a nutritional assessment of the population first, because neither United Nations or ECHO, which is the European the European Community Humanitarian Office, ECHO, they are never going to give you money or donations to open a food camp without proper justification and business case and arguments.
Yeah, so try to avoid any possible schemes and stuff out there.
Of course, and it makes total sense. So I learned a lot because we did a nutritional assessment of the population, especially the children. And you have to measure and weight and see if they have any nutritional disease, like getting, like these bellies, they get inflamed. Right. And it was very interesting in a population that is Muslim, because even though it's in Kenya, but the tribes there are Somali, are not Kenyan. But because Europeans split the continent after conquer, the borders are horrible. The borders are not where they should be in terms of tribal common sense. But anyway,
it's like your neighbor like walking into your yard and planting a flag going, mine.
Right. Totally. That's it. And that it was one of the projects I really enjoyed. And the second project was in Uganda, in Kampala, in the capital, next to Lake Victoria. The population with HIV there, at that moment, I'm talking about year 2000, 2001, at that moment, it was huge. It was like more than 30% of the population where they were estimating had the virus. So the intention of Doctors Without Borders was not only to try to cure as many cases as possible. In the moment was not possible to cure, but it's possible to extend the life and the quality of life with your lifestyle conditions. So they were trying to do that, but they were also trying to anticipate future cases by educating the population. So they opened an HIV kind of hospital/school, which basically meant they would give conferences and lectures or just have one-on-one talks for anyone who was interested in knowing more about how to avoid getting the HIV and how to, have the most healthy life they could. And then, as I said, on the weekends, I used to go in Nairobi, to the orphan house of the HIV kids.
Yes. Did you get the chance to get to know any of the patients there?
In the hospital?
Yeah.
In Kampala, you mean? No?
Oh, I'm sorry. The orphanage there. Not patients, but some of the children there in the orphanage. Did you get a chance to get to know them?
Yeah, I can send you a photo later.
That would be, yes.
By email. Because that one, but why do I say that? Well, maybe I can find them in my hard drive. I think I scanned them, but when I went to Kenya, I took a film camera. I didn't took with me a digital camera. So I've got all the photos on paper, and I have my negatives, of course. But I think
now, I was going to ask, why did you decide to do it on film?
was 2000, right?
It's year
Oh, it's
2000.
2000. That's right.
I don't think you could get like a 2 megapixel at the time, but
I thought you had one of those future cameras with you. I'm sorry.
we haven't got to that question yet.
Oh, that's right. I forgot 2000. Okay.
Jim, I didn't have to make a decision. It was what it was.
Well, it does sound like
this is what editing is for.
Yeah, no, I got to leave that question
You
in.
gonna leave this in?
That's too good to let go.
Okay.
2000.
All right.
Why didn't you do
I'll
digital?
owe you one.
I didn't have enough floppy disks. But it does sound like this. Go ahead.
I must say, you're right. I must say I had a digital camera, which was a crap. It was much better, my film camera. And the digital camera, I don't even know if it had a 1 megapixel, but the flash cards, they got full, I don't know, with 5 photos.
Yes, and they were about like 4 inches wide. Huge.
And I remember that because I did another project for a cooperative of women. They were artisans and they couldn't sell their products in Kenya because everyone was doing the same thing. So the competence was huge. I thought, okay, I can women, I can help you maybe exporting your art crafts. So when I thought I could do that, I went and I presented a business case to different embassies. Finally, the embassy of Sweden approved it and they gave us 24,000 euros at the time to do the project. So what I started doing was a digital catalog. And that thing, I mean, I tell you, you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. The photos were horrible. The resolution was, anyway. But
it's those, you took an image with your mind. You can look back at that picture and go, I can remember it better than it looks. So there is that.
Yeah, but the first step in the project was, getting in contact with the potential buyers in Europe. And I thought, I need to send this. I mean, I cannot take a plane, 12-hour plane, spend, 2,000 euros of the budget just to go there and show them. I need to know they are interested. I mean, we will go and show them in physically, and they will see what they can get. You also have to remember at that time, Skype was not even out there. We had webcams that were external to the laptops. That was that round thing that you put on top of
that. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember talking to my mom using internet, and it got the call would drop in 2 minutes 30 times.
And the video looked like claymation that had bad animation.
Yeah. The websites were horrible, no design, no
GeoCities for the win.
Yeah.
That was the true Middle Ages,
Exactly. So I did a digital catalog, like you said, Middle Age.
Yeah.
But now it does sound like the Nairobi was kind of the precursor to what you would later call your documentary work. It sounds like that you got to experience so much. Was that kind of a catalyst, would you say, as far as where you made your turn to finally go into documentary work?
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Mm-hmm. Probably because what you live in Kenya, what you live in Africa and is so strong and so impactful coming from either the US or Europe.
Yeah.
That I think in a way it changes your interests, the way you want to share what you've lived with people. Mm-hmm. So probably it was a catalyst. Yeah.
Nice.
Now you also had some beautiful images from Sri Lanka. What took you to Sri Lanka?
Thank you. I was living in Thailand at the moment.
Okay.
And when I had holidays and I didn't have to work in the Bangkok Seoul or even I wanted to travel to do more work and have more content, I wanted to choose different places. And I thought Sri Lanka was a good place. It's a very small island, in a way, a small country, but with a huge diversity. You find from sacred places, sacred Buddhist places, mountains, tea fields, surfing beaches, and then you find a lot of tribes I think in a pretty authentic way still. Because what happens with the big cities are very exciting. I also have projects in big cities like New York, for example. I have a project there about the street artists. But what happens sometimes in the big cities is they are so global these days that to find the traditions or the roots or the origins of a culture is much more difficult.
You got a better chance finding Starbucks.
Exactly, and Coca-Cola and McDonald's. So you go to Sri Lanka and you don't find any of these things. You eat on the streets, you talk to the people, you drink tea with an 80-year-old man who's been all his life picking tea leaves for the factory, who has 10 kids, and they bring you to their homes and you eat with them. And all those things you don't do in New York, neither in Mexico City, neither in Madrid, London.
Yeah, you don't want to go to anybody's house in New York that you just met.
Just in case.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, that's so it sounds so welcoming and warm.
I think in Asia, well, and in many places in the world, but I can talk about Asia pretty well because for 3 years I had the chance to travel not to all the countries, but to many. And they are welcoming, they are nice, they are safe. There are very few places, I think, in Asia that are not safe. Mm-hmm. I was, as you asked before, I was a woman and I was going on my own in Sri Lanka. Well, at the time I hired a driver, but just for the sake of, arriving to places faster.
Right.
And also me watching through the window and being able to say to the driver, stop, whenever I saw something that was really interesting.
Yeah.
But I must say, Asia is pretty safe, and especially those countries that are Buddhist. It has to do a lot with religion. When a country, and this is just a tip for women as well who want to travel on their own or just with a girlfriend, the safest are the Buddhist countries.
Any examples that you want to put out there?
Yeah, sure. For me, it was Sri Lanka, Thailand for sure, Laos, Vietnam. Vietnam is a combination, but it's pretty safe. Cambodia and Myanmar.
My, how things have changed, right?
Yeah, probably. It's 5 years. I don't go there.
No, I mean from,
you're talking
say,
about from the Pol Pot era.
Yeah, like 70s, 80s. Cambodia might not be as comparable to today.
But I would imagine those places are beautiful. And I was telling Casper before you got on, you have touched my heart with travel photography because that was how I started. With the travel, traveling through Europe and stuff, and it's just amazing to go to all these different countries where you have minimal command of the language, but you just try to get along, and the scenery, just going around travel, just amazed me. And I look at your work and I say, oh my God, I wish I could do that again. It's like,
yeah, I wish I did. I could just in general. Most of my travel has just been the Caribbean area. Now, being that you have visited so many countries, and am I correct in assuming for about 70? Is that what you've estimated that you've been to? Mm-hmm. And that's just visiting. How many countries have you lived in?
9.
9. So with so much experience and on such an international level, is there anything in particular that sticks out to you, like a common thread amongst the people of all of these areas?
Right. It's so great you mentioned that. I really enjoy that question because actually one of my projects, Places, talks about that, talks about the beauty of the people no matter where you are. We can also talk about the ugly things of the humanity, right? But there are so many photographers are there already documenting that, and they are so great. that I don't pretend to invade areas where I might not be as good, or because I'm a female, I might not reach as far as I wanted to. But I decided to talk about the beauty of the different places and the cultures, because by traveling to different countries, and as you asked me before, you are Spanish, right? Well, I know where I was born. I know part of me is Spanish, but part of me now is Mexican. And for sure, I had something from Thailand, because I learned Buddhism and I didn't know anything about it, or yoga, before going there. And now I practice yoga every day and I meditate every day. And that's something I would have never done if I would have never in my life left Madrid or Spain, right? Which is a Catholic country. I'm not very familiar with Buddhism.
Right.
So anyway, Kenya, Germany, Italy, England, the US, where I also lived, for sure have been countries that have inspired me and influenced me and my way of being and my character. So, and many times I find people from other cultures I can relate much more, no matter if they are from my city or my country. And sometimes with people from my country, I cannot relate as much, because it's not so much about where you are from, but your personality, what you've lived, what you have experienced, your passions. And maybe I have more in common with you, Casper and Jim, for sure, because the type of life, the type of job we have, our passions, than with other people that are my neighbors, meaning door to door. And what I've experienced is that when you travel, apart from being more open-minded, which we all are, but you also see that humanity is the same, no matter if you are in Thailand, in China, in the US, or in Peru. We all want the same things. The summary is very simple. We all want to be happy.
Yeah.
How we find happiness in different ways, but basically by being loved and loving, by doing something we really enjoy and have fun doing it, and of course by also having relaxed time.
Yes.
Some people relax by exercising, some others by drinking and smoking. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
whatever your vice is, as long as it gives you enjoyment.
But having a meaning in your life is essential for being happy.
Yeah.
And that most of the times is your work who brings the driver of the meaning of your life. But if you don't share it, meaning you are not loved and you don't love and you don't have anyone to share it with, what's the point, right? You are alone. And I think we all share that, no matter, and we all want our families, our kids, our parents, or siblings to be in good health. We all want to earn money to be able to go out to a nice restaurant or to travel or whatever. We all want the same things. What happens is maybe in Sri Lanka, people prefer to buy tea and drink tea and, I don't know, and go to the beaches. And people in New York prefer to go to clubs. And yeah, the culture is different. But at the end, what you want is to enjoy and be happy and eat healthy. That's it.
Very well said.
That's absolutely wonderful.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about your workshops.
Yes.
Tell us about your workshop series that you're running down there in Mexico City.
Yeah. So I do workshops for different organizations, but as well I run them in my studio. I do private workshops. The private workshops, I do small groups, maximum of 10 people, to guarantee we do good quality and I can pay attention to everyone. Uh-huh. And it's very, very practical. So I do a little bit of theory, of course, because we need the theory. But based on my own experience and what I said at the beginning of the conversation, the interview, you really become a photographer when you are outside there, facing the real world, making mistakes, and mistakes not only with the technical camera, with the technical equipment. If we were just studio photographers, yes, you can focus much more on the technical side itself. There are also other things in the studio, I know, but the studio is more controlled in a way. But when you go outside, you have to control your camera and everything that's happening. Not only the light. Yeah, you have to control the light, and maybe that day the light is not good, but maybe also there are people who are in the middle of what you want to shoot, or maybe, they closed the park you wanted to shoot. There are many things to bear in mind, and that's why I do the classes very practical. I usually run them on weekends. It's also easier for people who work or who study, and they have other things to do from Monday to Friday. And it's also good for me because it allows me from Monday to Friday to do my other work, to prepare projects, to prepare exhibitions, or any other visual projects.
Just a 7-day-a-week person, aren't you?
Not always. Not always.
Sometimes she'll sleep. Sometimes she'll take a break. But
well, describe your what workshops are you offering down there? Just let
what type of subjects and how people can find out more about them.
Sure, they are all in the website in the menu. You can find the different types, and they are basically. I do a basic course, an intermediate, and advanced. But I also do black and white photography. When you see my work. Of course, I shoot color, but maybe, 60-70% of my photography is black and white. And there is a different way to look at black and white, and there is also a different way to look at the world when you shoot black and white.
Right.
And so I do workshops of black and white. I also do Lightroom, so it's more editing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think basically it. But I'm open to, accommodate any requests.
And so you do
smartphone photography too, though. Is that right?
Oh, right. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, sure. I do. And that was actually a request. More and more people these days, they don't want to carry a big camera for different reasons, right? So I had this group of people asking me to do smart photography. And I did a workshop of 20. That was 20 people because it was for a specific institution. When it's for a specific institutions, I don't decide the number of students.
Right.
I decide when it's just my own private workshop. So anyway, it was 20 people. They were so happy. The word spread. They started to say to other people, and I started to get more emails. So now is a regular workshop I also do every year.
That's fantastic.
But, yeah.
I can relate to you on this surge of people wanting to take a mobile photography class because I myself teach workshops here in the Bay Area, and it's through the Harvey Milk Center. And when we introduced mobile, sometimes or most of the time the classes would go, they would fill and so forth, but other times some classes wouldn't, and unfortunately you'd have to cancel. It's the nature of the beast. Right. The mobile ones, on the other hand, as soon as that went live, the day of registration opens, it's immediately sold out. Same with Lightroom and mobile photography. Those two classes sell out every time within 24 hours.
Right.
But it goes to show what people out there are wanting and what people out there are trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And God bless the two of you for teaching us this stuff, man. Because I could never
quit playing. You teach workshops too, don't you? Don't you act like you don't?
I couldn't do it.
You can teach anything you want. Come on.
Now, you take most of these classes by request, or do you have scheduled workshops, like group workshops? In any particular way that you prefer people to sign up?
Yeah, it varies. Sometimes I see in my calendar that I have a weekend that is totally off. And I see this in advance, of course, maybe 1-2 months in advance. And I share it on the social media. I share it in the newsletter. I share it through different media. And people just sign up for that. And some other times people come and find me and say, hey, we want to do this workshop. What is the minimum of students you need? And I say 6, 7, whatever. And they make the group. Sometimes it's a group of friends.
Oh, okay.
That's great. So you just take out a kind of a section of people that all kind of know each other for the most part, and then build from that. Okay. Do you find that newsletters, or what exactly are you using that you find the best return on?
Social
media
these days,
like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Also my database of contacts. Now I have, when I arrived to Mexico, I didn't have a big database of contacts, of course. I knew just 2 people, and one was my landlord.
I'll give you a workshop if you give me a little bit of next month's rent off.
Exactly. Anyway, so, but these days, after 5 years, doing a lot of exhibitions, teaching, I don't know, word of mouth, students you have that also tell other people. At the end, my database today is worth it. It values.
See, that goes to show how important a mailing list is and how important it is to gather every email and every contact that you experience. When you go to our listeners out there, when you go to exhibitions, when you go to lectures, when you teach, or when you actually go to a workshop, and to learn, that you've signed up and registered for get emails from the other people that are also in that workshop, and to build that mailing list. I thank you for bringing that up. That's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, of course.
Well, I know it's kind of getting a little later in the afternoon there, so I'm going to go ahead and hand the torch off to Jim and have him ask the last question that we ask every one of our guests.
Alejandra, as Casper said, we asked this of everybody. If you had your choice of a place anywhere in the world to shoot at a time, it doesn't have to be at the present time, but at the time from the inception of the camera, when and where would that be?
Only can be one place?
No.
You can throw up a couple. We have no set rules here.
Lay them out.
I think there could be many, but two. I think the freedom of Nelson Mandela in South Africa.
Ooh.
Okay.
Getting him, getting outside of jail and, I think that would be amazing. And probably another one could be the first female vote in history.
Oh, is that right?
Shooting the women, their faces, their emotions, the people the men who were next to them supporting, the men who changed the law, because it was men who changed. We cannot forget that. So it's not about just the women, but it was thanks to many, many men. So I think that.
Interesting.
While much of our audience is United States based, I'm assuming you mean as far as in general, when not just in a particular country, but the first woman as far as being able to get that power.
I think the first female vote, I think it was New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken, but for sure the US was one of the first countries in the world to get the female vote. So probably I would love to be, I don't know, in San Francisco or New York or one of the big cities at that moment, which were not that big, and shoot the women getting inside the schools and getting outside the schools before voting and after voting.
That
would be
that's an awesome answer. And actually, that's an awesome double answer. Going from Mandela to the first vote. I mean, good shit. Good. Cool. Well, from that, let's go ahead and have you share with our listeners out there the best links online to find more about you and see your work.
Sure. I think Instagram is one we use a lot, all for photographers and photographer lovers. So mine is Alejandra with a J, so like Alexandra, but with a J, _ photo. That's Instagram. And then on Facebook, you can find me in Alejandra Photography. But if you go to my website, you can also see all the links to any social media. The website is alejandra-photography.com.
Awesome. And to our English-speaking listeners out there, when you arrive on the page, just make sure you use she has a link at the top right to be able to switch that out. So don't go running. Just stay and be patient because it will pay off. It's amazing, amazing work. And she's doing so much amazing work for so many out there. Thank you so much.
I second that. Amazing.
Yes. So, Jim, where can we find out more information about you, my friend?
Okay. And as always, at jimwatkinsphoto.com, and you can see all my social media links right there.
Fantastic. And you can find out more about me at recasper.com. All of my gallery links, my workshops, and any blog posts that I might put together and toss out there at 3:00 in the morning. Beyond that, more importantly, I want you to go to streetpx.com. That's where you're going to find all of our past episodes and any events that we have coming up. And as we had noted in the opening here, Street Photo is on its way about June 4th through June 11th. And I'm not sure if the contests are still going on at the time in which we're publishing this, but if you happen to be in the Bay Area come first 2 weeks of June, please go to Street Photo. You will be highly satisfied. I'm sure of that.
Alejandra, is there a chance we're going to see you there?
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely. I'm looking forward to meet you, same as last year. And
yeah, that's right. That's where we first met.
Exactly. And I really enjoyed it. I think it's an amazing contest. I've participated in a few, and I must say it's one of the top, not to say about the city. So, and you too, of course. So thank you very much again, and hope to see you very soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just as another aside, you might notice too that our website is a little different than it used to be. We got hacked like a son of a bitch recently, and pretty much took our website out just killed it. So I had to redo it. So things are changing. We're actually going to take this opportunity and seize the moment by adding new features, changing things up so it's easier to navigate. And I hope that everyone out there enjoys it. If you are enjoying our show, we would love to have support. Support helps us stay in more ears out there. So you can head over to patreon.com/street PX, and you can give a little, give a lot, whatever you do, every penny goes right back into keeping this show awesome. Beyond that, we have merchandise. If you want a t-shirt with a camera on it or any of our logos, you can also find that at streetpx.com. Just click the merchandise link right at the top on the navigation line. Thank you all out there for listening, and above all, thank you, Alejandra, for being on our show. It's been a joy.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
Thank you very much. It's great to have you on.
Yes. And until next show, everyone out there, have an awesome 2 weeks. Cheers.
Bye.